In this video we're going to look at Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation and target audience. This will cover some of the same ground as we did in the earlier video about the video game industry and how it's changed during lockdown, so there will be some crossover. Okay, so as part of section B we've got to look at mass audiences and niche audiences. So we need to consider, are we looking at a mass mainstream audience or a specialised audience? Now, whilst the Assassin's Creed franchise is very much a mass product, a AAA franchise aimed at the biggest video game audience imaginable, alright? It's one of the best-selling franchises in the world. Having said that, with the release of Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, they were targeting a more specialised audience, specifically women and people of colour, who was deemed at the time not to be the mainstream core audience for video games. So back in 2012, when these games were being released, there was a different idea of who the target audience was. Alright, we will have a look at the second point here, which is about how these games reflect identity, social, cultural, historical circumstances, but we'll do that in the next video when we look at sort of like the fandom for it, okay? So, if we think about the stereotypical video gamer, something like this South Park representation might spring to mind. Now, this is, of course, a stereotype. Right? Remember, Walter Lippmann was the person who coined the term stereotyping, but our core theorist for this is going to be Stuart Hall and David Gauntlet. So, we're talking about, a stereotype is when you simplify the audience into categories based on common characteristics. And the stereotype of the gamer is this, right? It would originally have been kids, but of course we now know that that's not the case. So, some fat, spotty, balding bloke, a bachelor, living on his own, drinking energy drinks, obsessed with geek culture, stuff like this, right? Is there an element of truth in this stereotype? Of course there is. There are people out there like this. But it's not the truth of who all gamers are. It's a stereotype. As we've already seen from the previous video, the idea that video gamers are male exclusively is not true. We're looking at something like a 42 to 58% split female to male. As we can see from active, this is mobile gamers specifically, but active gamers, they're pretty much even. The number of men and women playing in each age category is about the same. 17 to 18, 14 to 15. It's only at the younger age categories, so like 10 to 20, that there's any noticeable difference, and even then it's only about 2%. Right? As we can see, 50% of people who watch gaming video content watch Let's Plays and walkthroughs. 32% of people are cross-platform gamers, so they don't just play on mobile. They will also play on PCs and consoles and other devices. And 35% of people own a gaming headset, which implies that they're playing with or against people online, either on a PC or a console. So it's a mass market entertainment format. 32.4 million people in this country at least. Again, it's figures vary, but it's a lot of money's worth. It was 4.2 billion when this was done in US dollars. It's more than that now. As we said, 41% of all gamers are female, 59% are male. Women age 18 or older represent a larger proportion of the game playing population than 18 and younger old boys. So it's that stereotype doesn't hold true. We've seen these figures before. The question is, of course, what kinds of games are different genders playing? And is it the case that female gamers are more likely to be casual gamers who are playing on their mobile devices rather than hardcore gamers who are playing on a PC or a console? It's difficult to say. I've not found figures that split it down like this. The question is, what about you? What gender do you identify as? Are you a gamer? Probably. If so, what kinds of games are you playing? Right? Is it just things like, I don't know, mobile games like Word Search or Candy Crush or Angry Birds or whatever happens to be the popular game at the moment? Or are you playing Call of Duty in some tournament online? You know, it's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? So who is the Assassin's Creed audience? You might want to pause this, write down these key facts and figures. As you can see, the Assassin's Creed 3 audience is largely male. They're aged 25 to 39, and in terms of the PAMCO NRS social grade, they're ABC1, which means they're going to be middle class, essentially. They have got a fair degree of disposable income, anywhere between £125 to £499 per month. It's quite a lot, so they must be pretty well off, right? Politics, they're left-lean, right, so they're more likely to be Labour supporters. Whether that's relevant or not, I don't know, right? But, as you can see, it is who you'd expect it to be, really. I couldn't find specifically for Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, which is relevant, but mostly male, mostly middle class, right? However, if we look at the average gamer, you'll see a difference. Yeah, they're male. Yes, they're the same age group, but as you can see, they're more likely to be a low social grade. If we break that down, they're 54.6% C2DE and 45.4% ABC1. That is statistically significant because it's, knocking on 5%. But it's not that massive a difference. Yes, they are less well off, less than £125 a month. So they're more working class, right? Age-wise, though, as you can see, 45.8% of them are 25 to 39, which is what we expect from a game like this. So that's your typical gamer. You might want to make a note of that. So pause the video, make some notes. But, and this is the big thing, when Sony introduced the PlayStation Vita, they were marketing it at non-traditional gamers. As Jim Ryan, the CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment, said, Sony has confirmed that it's planning to target, with the upcoming release of the PlayStation Vita, lots of audiences, from the regular core gamers to even the female demographic, which in the mind of PlayStation Europe boss Jim Ryan is the untapped holy grail of gaming. So what it's suggesting is that back in 2012, when this game came out, that most gamers were perceived to be male. Probably white male. And with this game, Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, they deliberately had a female black protagonist. This made it unusual. Black male protagonists even are quite rare in video games, although lots of games now give you the option to choose your race and gender and all this kind of stuff. But back in those days, black characters were pretty rare, and even female protagonists were quite rare. So they were hoping that having a female main character might attract female gamers. That's a good quote. You might want to pause the video, write it down. The untapped holy grail is a particularly good phrase because what they're suggesting is that the video game market were ignoring female gamers and they wanted to exploit that market, that niche market. So, as we said, with this main character of Aveline Dupree, they were having a character that was female and having a character that was black. The game is set between 1865 and 1877. Sorry, it's Aveline de Grand Prix. The main character is African French. The game is set in New Orleans at the end of the French and Indian War. And by having this unusual character, they were hoping that it would appeal to female gamers in a way that other games weren't. So they were hoping to appeal to a different demographic. Now the question is, would having a female main character make it more likely for women to play the game? This is something you can discuss. If you are identify as female, are you more likely when playing a video game to pick a character as female given the option? If you are male, are you more likely to pick a character that is male if given the option? Or vice versa. If you, for example, identify as male, would you pick a female character given the option? Does it matter? Do you actually identify with that character? Or is it just some avatar that you're controlling and it doesn't matter? I suppose it depends on the game to a certain extent. Some games you're going to identify with the main characters more because they've got a more sophisticated narrative, perhaps. Personally, given the option, if I get an option between playing a male and female character, I'll quite often pick a female character simply because I can. And sometimes, given the option of building a character from scratch, I will often try and make it look as much like me as I can. Because I can. But it'd be interesting to see what you think. What do you do? Right? Are you more likely, if you're a female identifying gamer, to play games where you get to play female characters? It's an interesting point for discussion. Now, there have long been female characters in video games. Go all the way back to Miss Pac-Man. Obviously they've taken Pac-Man, they've put a little blue dot for an eye, given her a bow and put some little dots on the end to make it look like lipstick. Right? That's although even with Pac-Man, they have kind of sexualized her. Bizarrely. Another famous early video game, Metroid, had a twist ending where you find out that the character is that you're playing, your avatar is actually a woman. You find out at the end. That was the shock twist ending of this video game. Obviously the most famous video game character that's female is Lara Croft. This is from the original PlayStation version back in the early 90s. And famously, of course, she's a character that was heavily sexualized with her exaggerated, impossible physique, her ability to do this sort of like handstand thing. She was obviously there for a presumed male, cisgendered, heterosexual audience. She's there for a male gaze, let's face it, right? So, female characters in video games traditionally were aimed at male gamers as a eye candy, let's face it. Not really aimed at women at all. Today we're seeing more sophisticated representations of gender and sexuality in video games, like in this DLC for The Last of Us, with the main character of Ellie, who is a lesbian character and has a lesbian romantic element to it. But it's a game where very much you are meant to identify with the main characters. and I think it's one of the most powerfully emotional games ever made. It's just a stunning. It's like it's probably one of the best video games ever made. It's incredible. You really get to care for the characters that you are controlling. So, we are seeing more progressive attitudes, but they've been slow in coming. So, remember, Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation was released for the PlayStation Vita. This implies it was aimed at a more casual mobile gamer, the on-the-go gamers who are playing their games on the bus, on the train, on the way to work, when they've got 5 minutes spare, whatever. But it's different to the hardcore perceived gamer, the kind of people who are playing on the consoles or playing on a PC. The more perceived male, hardcore, younger gamers. And as we said, you had the two versions of the game. You had the Assassin's Creed 3, which is on the PS3, the traditional console game, and Liberation, which was made for this portable platform. The gameplay was basically the same. Obviously, the Vita didn't have the graphics that the PS3 had, and later the PS4. But the idea was you would draw in the hardcore gamers who bought Assassin's Creed 3 on a PS3 because they were fans of the franchise, and hopefully if they wanted to be able to exploit the game to its fullest, there were certain levels on each game you could only play if you had both versions. They were going to have to buy that new console, the PS Vita. So maybe it was an attempt to get more hardcore gamers to buy that portable platform. But equally it was meant to appeal to people who might not have a PS3, that are more casual gamers who just wanted something fun to play, to play with on the bus to keep them distracted. Remember, this is 2012. This is before smartphones had much in the way of market penetration. So very few people had smartphones back in those days. So, short of having like Snake on your Nokia or something. Basically, games on smartphones weren't as big a deal as they would be now. So you're attempting to draw gamers from other platforms into buying this new hardware, but you're also using this known property to bring in new fans who don't normally play video games. The implication here is women and people of colour. So as I said, the two games link together. So you have this downloadable content, extra games and things like that, extra levels and add-ons and this kind of stuff. It shows changing pattern of consumption, where games are becoming more things that are downloaded or streamed rather than bought on a physical format, like a DVD or a Blu-ray as they are nowadays. And it's saying that you're not going to get the full, complete, satisfactory experience unless you have both products on both platforms, which means buying more content and buying more hardware. But then it brings us to this idea of convergence, technological convergence, and getting gamers to buy into the value of exclusive content. That, the game wasn't available on any other platform. It wasn't available on Xbox, it wasn't available on Nintendo. If you wanted to play it, you had to have the PlayStation, you had to have the Vita. Right? So, when we're looking at the convergence element of this, David Butler is the person who coined the term technological convergence. One of our key theorists, Henry Jenkins, uses the term black box theory. The black box that is capable of doing all sorts of different things. Remember, once upon a time, devices just did one thing. A phone was a phone, a camera was a camera. They didn't do anything else. Nowadays, your smartphone will do the jobs of many, many devices from the past. We'll go into that in another video. But there are things that the Vita did that would later become more associated with smartphones. So it had touchscreen, it had Wi-Fi connectivity, Bluetooth, 3G. You couldn't use it to make phone calls, but it did have various social elements. So you could go on the PlayStation Store and buy and download content. It had a web browser. You could link it to your PS3 and later PS4, so you could play games on your telly. You could use it as a portable like a media player basically, so the equivalent of an iPod or a Walkman, right? You could use it to watch videos, you could use it to listen to music, which you could download off the PlayStation Store. You could use it to take photographs. But more importantly, it had these social elements, email and messaging. And these were stereotypically seen as things that might appeal to a more female market, who are seen to be more, in inverted commas, social. So you could call that quite sexist, but it might also be true. So I pause the video, make a note of the social elements and the convergence elements of the Vita. So that basically sums up some of the audience stuff we hadn't already covered in the earlier videos. The key thing to remember is that with the PlayStation Vita, Sony and Ubisoft were both trying to target audiences who didn't normally play Assassin's Creed 3 games. Principally women, but arguably also people of colour. Right, so as I said before, these PowerPoints are all available on the OneDrive. There are some other videos I've added to this playlist, notably the PBS Ideas channel videos that are pretty good about whether you know, the extent to which you are your avatars in video games. Are you really controlling an avatar, or are you being that avatar? Are you that character? They're worth watching. And also direct you to the Feminist Frequency channel, where Anita Sarkozian has got some very good videos about tropes against women in video games and the sexist way in which women are being objectified and stuff in video games throughout history. That also ties in with the entire Gamergate thing, which you might want to go and look at, which ties into the entire misogyny aimed at female gamers. There was a big controversy a few years ago. Okay? Right, if you've got any questions, you know where I am, and I'll see you in the next one.